Welcome to the Tipping Point Show. I'm Jimmy Evans. I have a great interview coming up here in just a minute with Pastor Mark Biltz. First of all, let me just say thank you to everyone who came to our conference last weekend. It was outstanding. The people there, you guys were so energetic and responsive and kind. And so thank you for coming. And everybody who streamed in, we hope that you enjoyed the conference also. You can still purchase the conference. You can purchase the live stream. I had a lot of people ask me about that at the conference. And so just go to conference.endtimes.com. $49. If you're a paid subscriber, you get half off. And so go there right now, conference.endtimes.com. You can purchase the live stream, whether you were there. A lot of people who were there wanted to, continue to watch because, it's hard to absorb everything there in that short period of time. So if you were at the conference, just go to conference.endtimes.com. Purchase the live stream there, and I hope that you continue to enjoy watching it. You get to watch it for 30 days now. So we have our conference coming up next year. I'll talk more about that in the weeks to come, but we're having a planning meeting today talking about what we're going to do, speakers and all that kind of stuff. And so we're looking forward. I hope we're not here next year, by the way. I hope Jesus comes before then, but if he doesn't, it sure is encouraging to get together with other believers and just have an exciting time of worship, of fellowship, of teaching, and everything. So we had a terrific time. Again, thank you to everyone who came. And by the live stream there, if you'd like to watch it again or watch it for the first time. I'm honored today to have joining me again on the show, Pastor Mark Biltz. He's the founder of El Shaddai Ministries in Washington State. He's a best-selling author of many books, including Blood Moons, which brought incredible revelation to the church about the end times. He's also a well-known popular commentator on the biblical feast of the Lord. Mark always brings a fresh perspective on Bible prophecy in the end times. And today, we're going to be talking about his new book, America at War, 2024 through 2026. And it says the sons of light versus the sons of darkness. This is going to be a powerful interview. Mark, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, well, thank you, Jimmy. It's always an honor to be on your program with you.
Well, I love it when you're here, and our viewers love you. And your new book, America at War, 2024 through 2026, very, very well-written book. The documentation in your books are always incredible. But you believe war is coming to America now, don't you?
I really do. I feel it in my bones, which I think everybody does as well. But I document how I see, without a shadow of a doubt, that war is coming to the United States, I believe, this year. I believe it's going to be coming internally, like an internal civil war, as well as externally, very possibly. And the reason I say that is we know how this election is causing great division and a lot of political turmoil between the Republican and the Democratic parties.
Right.
Well, if something happens to the elections where we don't have an election, or if it's only becomes a mail-in balloting and everyone is wondering who actually won, you're going to see, I believe this time, they're not going to put up with it like they did in 2020. And you're going to see some real uprising all around the United States. But beyond that, we also have the problem of the Israeli-Palestinian war going on that is very heated. And the people on the pro-Palestinian side are very violent, just like Hamas is. And then you also see, even among the political campaigns, the heating up of like the Haitian immigrants eating people's pets. I mean, this whole thing is driving a war, I believe, also between like the right supremacists and the illegal aliens or different things like that. We are at the peak of war internally on several different levels. You add to that with the uprising during the elections and the Israeli protests and the immigrant thing, I believe there's a good chance we're going to see suicide bombers blowing themselves up here in the United States. Our government has totally allowed too many illegal immigrants. A lot of single Chinese military age have come in. Everyone knows how bad the border has been.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine, during all the chaos of the elections, having terrorist bombings blow up, we won't know where everything will be total chaos. And I believe while total chaos is in the United States and who won is up for grabs, I believe that's when China will attack Taiwan. That's when North Korea could attack South Korea. That's when Iran, Hezbollah would attack Israel, taking advantage of the chaos here. And we're already tied up with Ukraine. Yeah. So I see total chaos happening here in the United States.
So in your book, you talk about, now, so everybody will know, all of our viewers, and I think a lot of people know this already, you're the one who discovered the blood moons, the lunar eclipses that were very special, because you wrote the book Blood Moons. Joel 3 talks about the moon's going to be turned to blood, the sun won't give its light before the coming great and awesome day of the Lord. We didn't know what that meant. I mean, we always just thought there's going to be some kind of a supernatural thing that happens. But you defined that so well. You wrote the original book, Blood Moons. Those are lunar eclipses, the blood moons. When it says the sun won't give its light, those are solar eclipses. And you believe, and you articulate this in your book, we have some very special lunar and solar eclipses that are happening now and will happen in the next couple of years, right?
Exactly. And I believe prophecy ties with science as well.
Yeah.
We have to understand God is the greatest scientist in the world. That's why in Genesis 1:14, when he created the sun and the moon, the number one reason was signs. And the only sign they make are eclipses. Now, the nice thing about an eclipse, a false prophet can't manipulate it.
Right.
It speaks to every language. And you can only have a solar eclipse on a new moon. You can only have a lunar eclipse on a full moon, which is why the days and years it talks about in Genesis 1:14 refers to the Shemitah year, the Jubilee year, the holy days, okay, Pentecost, Passover, Tabernacles. The church is basically only on a solar calendar.
Right.
Islam is only on a lunar calendar. You have to be on God's calendar to know when he's moving. Just for example, when you and me making this phone conversation, you're in a different time zone. We have to agree if we're going to meet to do this interview.
Right.
Well, if you want to have an interview with God, you need to meet when he says to meet.
That's exactly right. So we've got some special solar and lunar eclipses coming up, right?
Yes, but to give you the scientific biblical history, I had noticed there were a tetrad of 4 blood moons coming in 2014, 2015, and I never said I knew what it meant, but I knew it meant war. That's all. And then a lot of people wrote books about it, what they thought it meant, and some of them were incorrectly quoting me. All I knew was that it meant war. And I did not figure out what they meant until just this last year.
Wow.
And this is what is mind-blowing. Because when I looked and I noticed there were these tetrad of 4 blood moons in 1967, and it's tied to war. That was the 6-day war. Right. And then I saw they also happened when Israel became a nation. Now, they declared themselves a nation in 48, but they didn't become a nation until 1949.
Right.
And then 1492, when all the Jews were kicked out of Spain. You can go back in 70 AD when the temple was destroyed. There's so many signs God puts around these historical events. So they haven't happened often. This is what I found out the 2014, 2015 meant. A lot of Christians don't understand the Shemitah cycle, the 7-year cycle, where just like we have to rest on the 7th day, the land had to rest in the 7th year. And they don't understand the Jubilee cycle. I make it very simple. It's simple math. If the Hebrew year is divisible by 7, it's the Shemitah year.
Right.
If the Hebrew year is divisible by 49, the next year is the Jubilee year. You can, in Leviticus 25, you can only proclaim the year of Jubilee on Yom Kippur. The Jubilee, the last Jubilee, began on Yom Kippur of 1973, and they had the 6-day war.
Wow.
The Yom Kippur War. So here, the tetrad of 4 lunar eclipses in 67 was a warning of the Yom Kippur War in 73, and it was the exact first day of the year of Jubilee.
Wow.
And then 50 years later, 1973, 50 years is 2023. October 7th was the very last day of the 50-year Jubilee cycle, and there was a war. So this last Jubilee cycle began with a war, ended with a war, and the 2014-2015 lunar eclipses was a warning 7 years later of the October 7th war.
Wow. That's incredible. So we had the eclipse last April 8th.
Yes.
Which was the one that went through the United States, right over the top of where I'm sitting right now, from Mexico up through Canada. 7 years before that, we had the Great American Eclipse that went from Oregon, South Carolina. Okay, so those are significant, right?
They were highly significant, and they formed like an X, which is similar to the Hebrew letter Tav, which means sign.
Wow.
And so these were signs from the God of heaven, and that happened on Nisan 1. Nisan 1, again, is the beginning of the religious year, and it is the very same day the 3 days of darkness hit Egypt in the original Exodus.
Wow. Wow.
It was the very same time. So we knew that these things were signs in the heavens. Well, what's coming? We have a lunar eclipse that just happened the other day on the biblical calendar, Elul 15, which is because you can only have a lunar eclipse in the middle of a biblical month, a full moon. You can only have a solar eclipse on a new moon. And that's why God planned these this way. This is the month of repentance. God wants us to return, to go home. Well, 2 weeks later from the full moon is going to be Rosh Hashanah. And there's a solar eclipse on Rosh Hashanah, and it happens 2 years in a row. There's a solar eclipse on Nisan 1 next year, another solar eclipse on Rosh Hashanah, another solar eclipse on Nisan 1.
Wow.
And these refer to the nations because they're solar eclipses. Judgment's coming on all the nations of the world. And then the lunar eclipses happened, like I said, the middle of the month of repentance, and then on Purim. This refers to Israel. Purim is Haman, who wanted to commit genocide against all the Israeli people. And that happens 2 years in a row. It'll happen next year on Elul 15, and then again next year on Purim. So this is why I see the whole world is going to be in conflict over the next 2 years. No doubt in my mind.
So again, you're not basing this off of anything subjective. You're looking at, there are signs. Jesus said there would be signs in the sun, moon, and the stars. And so we've had, since 1492, we've been having signs, the lunar tetrads. What you just said right there, that's miraculous.
It's totally miraculous. And when you go to the Bible, you see the eclipses happen in the same order as the 12 tribes marched to war to win the promised land. They're in the same order of how they marched to take over the promised land.
Absolutely incredible.
Because each tribe is assigned a month. And Judah went first, so they're assigned the month of Nisan. And here, April 8th in Nisan, Judah just took off.
Wow.
And we are right now, here, the last one, Elul 15, the lunar eclipse is Gad. And then 2 weeks from now is Rosh Hashanah, all right? And that's Rachel's kids, Ephraim, okay? So it's amazing that how they hand the baton is in their marching is the same order these eclipses happen. So I believe this is the marching order where we're going to finally take the promised land.
Well, you document all of this in your book, and we were talking about this before we came on. Page 124, you actually predicted in page 124 the war. What did you predict on page 124?
I've got the book right here in front of me, and I'll read it. I can show you where it is.
This April of 2024 could be the start of the prophetic war with Iran.
There it is. I really believe that this was going to be it, and I'm the only one who suggested the possibility. And the reason why is based on the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 10. Daniel is fasting for 3 weeks. And if you read it, it was during the month of Nisan. Here he's in Babylon. He can't keep the Passover. And he's been praying. And then all of a sudden, this angel appears. And he says, I would have come to you at the very beginning, but I've been fighting the prince of Persia. That's Iran.
That's Iran.
And if you read the story, he says this prophecy is for the latter days, the end times. So here's a war going on with Iran in the month of Nisan, which is our April. So this is to warn us today that this was going to take place. Persia represents Amalek. Right. Well, the first time Amalek attacked was in the second month, Iyar, after they left Egypt. The next big time Amalek attacked was in the 12th month, the month of Adar, which was Purim. The only month left is Nisan, the first month. They attacked in the second and the 12th. And in Chronicles, it says spring is the time of war. And God says in Exodus, he will have war with Amalek in every generation. And so that's why I thought it could be this year or next year. But it turned out Iran gave a 3-day warning that they would attack Israel. That first day was the very day the angel appeared to Daniel.
Wow.
There's too much math, science tied into the Bible. I believe in prophecy, but I don't claim to be a prophet. What I do, I just like to look at the math, the science, the Bible, and put it together, and that's how we know it's God.
Tom Horn, the late Tom Horn, wrote a book about Apophis. Apophis is an asteroid that he predicted would hit the Earth April 13th of 2029.
Exactly.
And so do you agree with that? Are you familiar with Apophis?
I'm familiar with Apophis. I don't know. Yeah, I like dealing with things I know, not what I don't know.
Yeah.
But I really believe that is an awesome sign that is coming. Plus, you have the 2030 Economic Forum. There's so many things happening in 2030 that tells us this very well could be it.
Yeah. So let's focus on Israel. But right now, we have a major escalation of war with Hezbollah and with Israel. Where do you see Israel's wars going?
Well, what's fascinating, this battle with Hamas, and some of your listeners may not know, but Hamas means violence.
Right.
And when God destroyed the earth in Noah's day, twice he says it was because of violence. And when you look at all the mass shootings that are going on now, even among the schools, the violence has escalated beyond it's ever been.
Yeah.
And Amalek, you may have read this in the book, but Amalek, who God said he will have war with, actually etymologically means a nation or a people who chop up body parts.
Wow.
That is exactly what Hamas did. And I think this even goes back again to 1973, the Yom Kippur War. 1973 was also the Roe v. Wade decision on abortion. Right. And this is where they chop up body parts.
Wow.
It's the Amalek spirit. Okay. And it also was the year of Jubilee. And so there's so many patterns, but I see the war with Israel, Lebanon, Iran. I really see it escalating. You see it politically as well. There's a lot of things. God is the ultimate chess player.
Yeah.
God is the ultimate one, that choreographs everything to absolute precision. And so in one sense, I love, like someone who is doing forensic files. I like tracking God. I like to see where his footprints are and follow the footsteps. So I can get an idea of what he's doing and where he's going. But I really see this war escalating this fall and really this next spring between Iran and Israel. It's gonna get ugly. I think we could see Isaiah 17 be fulfilled, where Damascus is destroyed.
Yes.
Now that's a prophecy that hasn't happened yet, and so I see that coming. The Psalm 83 war coming, and it's all designed in the heavens by God.
Yeah. So in your book, you're talking about the Shemitah cycles, and the thing I appreciate, when you go back to the blood moons. And you look at the Jews were expelled from Spain in 1942. Then you had blood moons 1943, 1944. or 1493, 1494. Yeah. And then again, when Israel became a nation, again, when they retook Jerusalem in the 6-day war. And so God is speaking to us in the heavens. And so
exactly.
If the tribulation did begin in 2029, that's around the corner.
Exactly. We only have a few years left to reap the harvest, and God is always looking for people to work the harvest.
Yeah.
And so this is why we have to get on God's calendar. This is why we created a calendar for believers so they can look at what time it is.
So this, in your book, you at the end of your book, you go through all of the Shemitah cycles, Jubilee cycles since creation.
Exactly. I don't know of anyone who's taken and is showing everyone every Jubilee. And when you look at that, you'll find the United States in 1776 was a Shemitah year followed by a Jubilee year.
Oh, wow.
You'll see Jacob was born in a Jubilee year. Jacob died in a Jubilee year. And Messiah, it was the 77th Jubilee that he was born.
Wow.
And it was like the 541st Shemitah cycle. And if you remember, Yeshua said, I came for the house of Israel. Well, 541, he was the 541st Shemitah cycle, is the gematria for the word Israel. The letters make up 541.
Wow.
So he was ministering in the very Shemitah 7-year cycle for Israel. The math is beyond calculations how he figured this out.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that you dig down and find all of that out. And in your book, it's brilliant the way you put it together. So how can people get your book, Mark?
They can go to esm.us. The nice thing I like about the book, it's large print for us old folks.
It is. I love that. Yes.
And it's in full color.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but esm.us or Amazon, if they have the Amazon Prime and they can, save shipping and get it quicker, that's fine.
And what is your website address?
www.esm.us.
Okay, great. Mark, thank you so much for being with me again today. And how could people that read your book, what do you want them to take away from it?
To get on God's calendar.
Yeah.
More than anything else. How would you like to be a day late making Noah's boat?
Yeah.
I mean, God, he is going to close the door, it says. And when he closes the door, many are going to come to him and say, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name, do miracles in your name, all these wonderful works? And he says, I don't know you. See you later.
Yeah.
If two people are going to get married, they have to agree on what day.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I believe people have to get on God's calendar.
And you have a book called God's Day Timer.
Yes, it's incredible.
And it's about God's calendar.
Yes, exactly. God's day timer.
The book, The Blood Moons, also.
And decoding the prophet Jeremiah, decoding the Antichrist. And then my latest thing is really a computer information. It's called the Mark Belt's Bible, and they can go to esm.us/Bible. Me and I don't know if you ever heard of Danny Ben-Gigi. He is the #1 Hebrew expert in teaching Hebrew. He's a native Israeli. He and I came together, and we've just put out the entire New Testament in Hebrew with Hebrew transliteration and the corrected English, because we found a lot of Bibles have intentionally mistranslated some words.
Wow.
And so we wanted to make those corrections, and it's amazing. I can tell you whenever you want some of the horrible intentional mistranslations into English.
Well, that's fascinating. Encourage everybody to go to your website to get your new book, America at War, 2024-2026. Mark, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's always great being with you.
You bet. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bless you.
We're going to go now into the subscriber-only portion of the show. I'm going to be talking about the war in Israel right now with Hezbollah and some powerful things that are happening and just the prophetic significance of what is taking place, because this is escalating. Since last October 7th, there has not been a dull moment. There has not been a subsiding of the tension in the Middle East, certainly related to Israel. So I'm going to be talking about that. If you're not a subscriber, go to endtimes.com. It's $7 a month. and it'll be the best $7 you've ever spent. You're going to get a ton of information every single week. My podcast, Mark Hitchcock, Brian Schrager, our correspondent from Israel, articles that come out, answering questions, all different kinds of things. So go to endtimes.com and become a subscriber if you're not one already. We're going to go now to the subscriber-only portion.